Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak, the podcast. This week on Stephen Speak, we're going to be talking about the coronation. Yes, I know, but it's a big thing for the UK and Britain, and I'm a royalist, so I thought we'll have a little bit of discussion on that, shall we? So yeah, stay tuned. Welcome to Stephen Speak, the podcast. Unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Yeah, so this weekend's seen something pretty historic, really. Something that most people have never seen before. Um, I know my mum was born the year the Queen was crowned 70 years ago. Sorry, mum, to give your age away. But it was her birthday on the King's coronation, 6th of May. She was 70. So it's been that long since the last event of this type took place. And for me, I like the royal family. I think it's something in this country. It's a tradition, and I know there's a lot of people in the country and probably the world, to be honest, that probably don't agree necessarily with what they're about, and that's fine. But for me, I I like that pomp and ceremony to a degree. And we'll get into some other stuff shortly. But yeah, what a historic day. So I watched the majority of it. Saturday was quite a busy day for us, and so was Sunday. Actually, we've had quite a busy weekend. Actually, today is a complete. This Monday. I'm recording this bank holiday Monday in England, in Britain. It's a special one for the King's coronation. So thank you, King Charles III, for giving us an extra day off work. But today, all I've done is me and Sarah have gone out for breakfast to a bikers cafe, and literally come home and I've had a nap, and it's been a very much of a chill out day. I'm watching some subscription services. But yeah, it's been a weekend of history for the country. So King Charles um has taken over from his late mother, so Queen Elizabeth II, and it's a strange thing because you always think of like kings being a bit younger or queens being a bit younger when they kind of take the throne. And I'm sure in history it's happened where like the monarchy have had like older kings and queens, but I mean Charles is is getting on a bit, and I think it showed through a bit on the weekend that he was aging, and it was kind of like um not sad, but it seemed to be. I think me and Sarah said a couple of times, he should be rested. He shouldn't have to be going through all this. Uh, And I know you'll probably say he doesn't have a job, but they're constantly out there, aren't they? The royal family are constantly out there doing things, and I just think it did seem um like he was just tired, and it's a big day. You literally being beamed around the world on TV. It was the first one that was live streamed at Queen Elizabeth II. Hers was the first one that was broadcast on television, um, and his was the first one that was live streamed on the internet, which is quite amazing. Really, it's quite amazing. But I mean, he's like, how old is King Charles? Like 73, 74, maybe. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he's like mid 70s now. Um, I'm pretty sure he's like 73 or 74 because he's a few years older than my mum. Um, and yeah, I just think it's I felt a bit sorry for him, to be honest. He looked knackered. And that crown must weigh a ton. Like, let's face it. That crown is a thing of weight, and he's got to carry the scepter and the orb. And I was thinking to myself, all them people that were having their duties carried out, and it was a long ceremony. Like, it lasted a few hours, and all I was thinking to myself is like, I don't know if I could have stood there in such like conditions and stood and held something for so long. Like, it's like a feat of like a strength test almost, an endurance test. But yeah, he just looked um kind of stressed really. But I liked how his personality shone through as well. Like every so often you saw him smiling and glancing at people, and he had input into that coronation ceremony. There were certain things that he'd chosen to do, which I thought was a nice thing. They still have to go through all the traditional um ceremonial stuff of receiving like the gauntlet and the cuffs and ceremonial sword and the protector of the faith stuff and all that. But I liked how he included like multiple religions and faith leaders and stuff. And I'm not sure whether that was done at Queen Elizabeth's actually. I mean, I was talking to Sarah about it, and I said, "Was that a thing back then? I don't know. I'm not sure whether they did that then, um, or whether it was very much the traditional pomp and ceremony that they just did themselves." But I just thought it was a nice thing to see, nice modern inclusivity, and I think it meant a lot to him as well because you could see from his face when he was talking to some of the faith leaders that he'd given them duties to. It obviously meant a lot to him. Um, and it's a big thing to have that kind of thrusted upon you. And the reign that Queen Elizabeth II had, it was so long, and she was. I know you've got the haters as well, so I am going to get to that. But she was so well respected and kind of like a national treasure, and kind of treasured the world over. I mean, say what you like about the royal family, but when they go places, they cause an event, isn't it? Like, it's quite to behold this um family that have that kind of like history and entitlement connected with them. It you know, general day to day, I don't really think about them too much, but when it happens, I do get like very patriotic when I see the royal family, and I think around the world, it's something that a lot of countries don't have, and that history as well of Britain, and I think it's something that um they kind of marvel at, and I think that's only a good thing. But yeah, the whole thing was lovely. We watched the procession down to the Westminster Abbey. We watched them leave and go back to the palace, and we had to go somewhere then, so we kind of packed up a kit and went and just recorded the rest, and just watched the fly past and stuff, and then come to the balcony and do the old wave to the crowds. And I think the crowd spoke for itself. Like the support that was there, there was a lot of people that turned up and travelled to London and wanted to show support and lined the streets to congratulate them and to support it and to be there and witness this massive historic event. Um, we were talking as well, me and Sarah's like saying that this is something that some people might only see in their lifetime, so they might only see one of these. We might see two because I don't want to hate sounding like doom and gloom, but Charles is old. He's we never saw the Queen's coronation. We've seen Charles's now, but he is in his 70s. Like even if he lives to like 100, 100 odd, like it's 30 years. Potentially, I could see another coronation in 30 years' time. Um, so that would be incredible, especially to compare the two as well. I mean, I know we can compare it to the original one because it was the first one that was filmed. But it'd be interesting to make that comparison um, between even the comparison between all three, between Queen Elizabeth II, Charles III, and whomever would be the next successor, William, I suppose. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of quite emotional as well. I got quite emotional at times with it all, like the choir singing and the Welsh singer Bryn. I can't think of his surname now, but he's a Welsh like operatic singer, and he sang this beautiful song with such passion and poise and um, confidence. I don't know how he did it, to be honest. It was just perfect, and to do that on such a you know uh, massive event and not to falter is credit to him. Um, Not that I can remember his name. But yeah, I think it was quite emotional because of that, and I think it was also because of Camilla as well. And I know there's a lot of hate for Camilla, and I've not really been a biggest fan in the past. Never bloody met her, so I don't know where I've got that frame of reference from. But um, it's just one of them things that I think everyone saw him with Diana, and and I think they just thought, this is really Diana's. This should be Diana, maybe. I don't know, but it wasn't, and I think she was brilliant. I think she I don't know. I feel like she did so well the way she held herself. She looks super nervous too, and she knows what people are thinking of her. She understands that people aren't a fan of her, maybe, but she looked lovely. She looked beautiful, and yeah, and I think you could feel all the way through was her massive um emotion, but also the fact that she was also worried about Charles. I felt like she was kind of looking over at him, wanting to support him, but knowing she wasn't able to, maybe not allowed to because of the ceremonial duties and how it's all got to go down. And I felt that he was the same. I feel like he wanted to check on her a few times. There was a few little looks between them, and yeah, it was just quite. I just felt it was quite emotional. And Sarah always gets emotional whenever there's like military personnel involved. Have you seen any military people? So she was emotional from that as well. And yeah, I just think it was just such a lovely day. I really enjoyed it. Um, and I do think that the comparison between I'm going to go back and watch some YouTube or something because I'm sure the coronation from 1953 is on there, and I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna see what the differences are. I think I probably should have done that before I did this video. Really, before I did this podcast. Really, not there yet. Soon. Yeah, I think it would have been really, really interesting to compare them. When the biggest thing that people have been comparing and moaning about is money. If you're not a royalist, your probably first thing is what do they do for the country, and they cost us a lot of money. And I would say both them statements aren't correct. The way I feel about it. I think I read somewhere saying that it costs each household in Britain like £1.29 to have a monarchy. Um, I think like on average, and the money that the monarchy get from the government is like set, and I don't think it's been increased for a while neither. Um, I think that the monarchy make their own money as well. The big landowners, like they have, it's I think it's estimated. I read on the internet, did a little bit of research today, did a little bit of research. I think I read that their land ownerships like estimated in the billions. Like, um, it's it's quite astounding when you look up land registries. Actually, it's how much land that actually belongs to the monarchy, which I suppose isn't too surprising because considering um, monarchy and land ownership from the past and stuff. But you wouldn't think it would be still a thing in modern days. But under the guise of Duchy of Cornwall and Duchy of Lancaster, is it? And they have like massive land ownerships. They also own offshore, like I'm gonna say flower beds, but sea beds as well, which is something I didn't know. But their land ownership on land and in sea is like billions and billions and billions, and with like eco stuff going on, it's making them money. It's making them money and land access rights, etc., and selling off land for different things. So they are making money, and I would think that it's enough money that they probably don't need that money from the government. They probably are self-sustainable. So, but there's all the laws about how they get the money, and it's like written into Parliament, and it's how they get their money. And the Queen and Charles both both pay taxes. Like they don't have to. They're kind of like a tax exempt person, and they voluntarily declare tax on any of their earnings outside of the monarchy. It's weirdly that they're somehow exempt from it, I believe. And Charles paid like 5 million quid in tax last year, which he didn't have to do. So it shows something about their character, and I suppose I remember that's something because the public have this, some of the public have this stigma about how much they cost working class people. They may be making saying, we're going to pay tax, show we're giving something back. But I've worked in the transport industry for a long time, and I used to be more like customer facing when I first started, and that was that was something that I got a lot from speaking to tourists and stuff, like a lot of Japanese, Americans, Europeans, well, people from all over the world, to be honest, would come to this country, and on their list of things to do, on their itinerary was normally London, and big on the list was going to Buckingham Palace, and they had this kind of view of the royal family as like something to be treasured. They were kind of like I've said, they were kind of in awe of it, to be honest. And I always like you kind of take something you if you have something you kind of take for granted. And I think in this country we have the royal family. We kind of take that essence of what they mean and what they do for granted. And yes, they're born into a life of luxury. They're born into this world of you don't have to get a job, but they're also born into this world of ceremonial duty, public service, and I feel that even though yes, they probably have a good life, well, they do have a good life. It's not all like rainbows, is it? It's not all It's not all parties and stuff for them. Although that would be part of it. They have these royal diaries that they have to keep, and I don't know. And along with that, they get to visit most amazing places. But would they choose to do that? Like they're bound by this duty that they've had bestowed onto them, um, and this yeah, this duty that they have to do. And I think um, as much as their life is amazing and they get to do all these things, they're always in the public eye. They're always held to this very high level because they're royalty. And for the people that, even for the people that like them, and for the people that don't like, aren't royalists, then they've got this extra pressure of justify your reasoning for being there, kind of thing. Um, but I think it must be pretty damn hard. And I do agree. I do think that the royal family need to upgrade themselves a little bit. I do think they need to, you know, grade their kind of outlook. They need to modernize like the traditions and stuff that they have. I think some of them are amazing, and other ones are quite restrictive. So I do think some of them maybe need to be changed, but then it gets into the realms of when you change in tradition, doesn't it ruin it? It blights it. Can you change anything? Because then you start changing one thing, you can start changing all the other stuff. So it's a difficult thing to do. But for me, I really like the royal family. Um, and I would love to have met the Queen. I always thought she was. If you've seen any programs about her, like real documentary series, and seen her, like I mean, I know it's like on camera, but kind of like candid kind of imagery of her. She was quite a chilled lady and quite outspoken and intelligent and witty and sharp and wasn't afraid to tell you what she thought, like being and all. But she would put her opinion across, and I think what we've got to understand as well, all these people have been brought up in quite a sheltered but open environment. So what I mean by that is that they're sheltered because they have to be because of the royal family. They can't be sent anywhere. They can't really go out on their own. They can't just do what they want to do, and that's very very restrictive. I mean, imagine that like you had the most strict parents and said, "Yeah, you've got all this fantastic luxury, but you can't just go to the shop on your own. You can't go and experience what it's like to go and buy a newspaper. You can't. It's kind of getting to that realm of like born into superstardom from birth. You're a superstar, and that must be difficult on the psyche. And I believe that's why like William, especially Harry, liked the armed services so much because when they were serving soldiers, and it was probably the same for Charles, maybe as well, and some of the other royals. That I saw it a lot in William and Harry that when they were serving their time, they were one of the lads. They were fair enough, they were royalty, but I think people saw that they were real people, and the other soldiers saw the real people and just talked to them like they were real people. And I think that they really, really appreciated that, and I think that's why that they served as long as they did. Um, I may be misremembering it, but I'm pretty sure they both did extended service time, and Harry did live. Um, he actually went into battle because I know there was a big scandal about him quoting about him killing people and stuff like that. Pretty sure that's a thing. um, and then William did his rescue service helicopter pilot stuff as well. So I think that shows like how much they liked being in that kind of like real world situation, even though it's kind of extraordinary as well. You know, being a helicopter pilot on the front line, being an Apache helicopter. Uh, it's extraordinary, but it brought them closer to probably like a more real life job because I wanted to be a helicopter pilot in the army. You know, that could have been me. You know, um, yeah, it's just they are still people at the end of the day. And you see Charles in little moments when he's talking to people, and he gets like a little wry smile, and he's a father, and he's a dad, and he's a granddad, and he is cheeky, and he does all these he has these jokes and probably really terrible dad jokes as well. But I think it just shows that human side of him, and yeah, I just love them, and I just think that there's something needed in this country, and I think what Saturday showed was a bit of a coming together of community spirit. People did stop and watch it, like not everyone, obviously, but it, people still took an interest, even if they weren't overly interested. And I think that is just a nice thing. I think we need more happiness in the country at the moment, in the world. And I know that cost a lot of money on Saturday. People will go on about the money. And it cost a lot in 1953. And we were in a similar situation post war, not a lot of money. And in 1953, I think the equivalent cost us about £20 million in today's money. And I think they were saying that Saturday and the weekend events would have cost between. Now, this is a massive estimate. One of the newspapers that I read, I think it was the Times, or the Guardian, said between 50 and 100 million. Like, that's a massive. If you went to your boss and said, "Got an estimate for you about how much I'm going to charge you," and it's between 50 and 100 million, you wouldn't go, "Oh yeah, fair enough." If someone said between 50 pence and a pound, you'd still be a bit pissed off. You'd be like, "Well, is it 50p or a pound? Because I want to know." Between 50 and 100 million. So what is it? It's 55 million, 95 million. Like, that's a massive difference. So I don't particularly like that. I think that's just riling people up, to be fair. Um, and with percentage rises and stuff, it would probably be closer to 100 million. Like, that's just inflation. Like, if you look at, I know there's like an inflation calculator. In fact, I'll do it now. I will do it live for you now. So on the Bank of England website, there is an inflation calculator, and you can put in what year it was. So we'll select 1953, and I don't know if you can put in 20 million. 20, 1, 2, 3 zeros. Show the amount. Oh yeah, there you go. So it works out in some sort of weird algorithm and based on different CPIs and stuff like that for different years. But it's saying that £20 million in 1953 would be the equivalent of 444 million seven yeah 444 million pounds. So if they've managed to do it for 50 to 100 million, that's a quarter. That was basically a quarter of what Elizabeth's would have cost. Less than a quarter. So well, less than a quarter. Bloody well done. They've done it for 50 million. It's like an eighth. Yeah, people moan about it. Bloody everything really winds me up. Anyway, for me, the money that would have brought into London and the country and retail in general over the weekend would have been more than that. Like, so it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? At the end of the day, you like them, you like them. If you don't, what are you gonna do? They're in the system, aren't they? Um, I think the future of the royal family is clouded, though. I don't know how long they would sustain that. Are people still going to accept them? There's been quite a few debates on television about having an elected monarchy, which is weird because that becomes then like the government. Who would you elect to be in that position? Because you still have to fund it. 'Cause I think you think people are in two camps about it. To be honest, it's either they do nothing, that they're just being paid for doing nothing. We have to give them money. Why is that? They cost us money and they don't do anything. And then other people are like, well, we understand that they do a lot, but they're not elected. It's this one family. They get all the glory. They're meant to be the ones that, kind of elected by God, if you will. Um, this original, like, a religious kind of uh, connotation on their selection. So it's either about the money or it's about being elected. But no matter who you elect, no one's gonna still no one's gonna be happy with them, because you can elect Joe Bloggs down the street and half the country be like, oh yeah, he's a good guy, or she's a good person. But then they're still gonna have to be funded. And then you probably have like historic rights of people that were in the royal family. You can't just cut the funding. There'll be like weird clauses where it'll say they've got that right until they die. So fundamentally, you'll probably have like some existence of the royal family for years and years and years, decades even if they do abolish it. I feel like they wouldn't be able to cut them off completely. I feel like there would be like some sort of weird law. I agree that the monarchy probably does need to modernize, but I personally have no problem with the whole, and I'm not religious at all, about the whole, like, this is the family that get to be kings and queens. Because that's just how it is. And for me, they do so much good for the country, with their travels around the world, representing the UK, representing the Commonwealth, and promoting that, maintaining historic locations like Windsor Castle. I mean, if you ever get to go Windsor Castle, please go. It's amazing. Like, I can just imagine Henry VIII living there. Me and Sarah went a few years ago, and it was just so good. I would love to go back. I'd love to go stay there for a couple of days and take it in a little bit more. It was a bit of a flying visit for us, but yeah. I just think that they do so much for this country, and I think we take them for granted a little bit. And fair enough, like when they get married, funerals and stuff, they cost a lot of money, but it's like anything, like in commerce or anything like that. Something happens, there's a benefit from it. So anyone that hates the fact that might have cost 50 million quid on Saturday, it was hundreds of thousands of people in London spending money. So the tax and stuff that's gone from that, kind of only reimbursing it to a degree. I know not fully, but it's only good for the local commerce and economy. That happens. Yeah, I do think they need to modernize. I love them, and I hope they stay. And I hope that King Charles does do some reforms. I feel like he's got things up his sleeve. I think the first King's speech at Christmas will be interesting. What do you think about the King? What do you think about the coronation? Did you watch it? Do you hate the monarchy? Let me know. I think that's it for today. Yeah. Let me know what you think about the monarchy and the king, and I will speak to you all soon. Thanks very much. You've been listening to Stephen Speak the podcast. Thanks for listening to my unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Visit stephenspeak.com for updates, information, and my blog. You can follow more updates on social media at StephenSpeakPC. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon.